Since the dawn of time, our world has been changing. What once was the land of the dinosaurs became the land of a giant crater. What once was Pangaea is now 7 vastly different continents. Hell, even old New York was once New Amsterdam. But in order for these changes to occur, something had to be there to spearhead those movements. For the dinosaurs, it was a giant comet. For Pangaea, it was the tectonic plates. And for New Amsterdam, it was those selfish English bastards taking more land that wasn't theirs. For filmmakers, it was the summer blockbuster that led the charge into making movies what they are today, and none of that would have been possible without Spielberg's first major motion picture. The lead up to Jaws' release was unlike anything before it. Up to that point, most movie studios didn't want to spend a lot of money on a marketing campaign, so they would rely mostly on word of mouth increasing and more theaters wanting to put their film in them. In fact, at the time, it would be seen mostly as a failure if your movie had a wide release on opening weekend. Most studios that did this didn't have any faith in their films and just wanted as much money as possible before the negative word of mouth spread around. Universal Studios broke new ground with Jaws, though, by doing both of these things. On the lead up to the release, Universal created a $1.8 million marketing budget to launch multiple 30-second ads that would play during primetime television on the week leading up to the film, so as soon as it came to theaters, everyone would know about it. To capitalize on the excitement generated from these ads, Universal Studios also decided to make this film a wide release, opening in 409 theaters across the US on its first weekend. Add on top of this a haunting John Williams score, an iconic poster, and positive word of mouth, this film was a must-watch, and people watched. By the end of its first weekend, Jaws made an impressive $7 million, and within just 10 days, that total was up to $20 million. In just under 60 days, it made over $100 million and became the biggest film in North American history. Even with all these factors, though, a movie like this wouldn't have done these numbers if it sucked, but Jaws rules. The initial idea was to have the shark be much more prevalent throughout the film, but due to issues with the animatronic malfunctioning, the script was changed into much more of a horror thriller. This was absolutely a benefit to the movie for a couple of reasons. First of all, the shark animatronic didn't look realistic in the slightest, so the film wouldn't have held up nearly as well all these years later. Second of all, the horror thriller tone made for a much more engaging experience for most audiences by keeping you on the edge of your seat for nearly the entire film. Sure, Spielberg could have kept to his guns and created an action film that would have been probably really good, but instead he created an instant classic that is yet to be replicated to this day, and in turn, he created a whole new genre of movies, the summer blockbuster. And while the genre may not have picked up for a couple years, the next film to really take on the opportunity was... Now, Jaws was absolutely the first in the summer blockbuster pool, but Star Wars took it to another galaxy.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Alright, okay, no more puns, okay? No more puns, alright? Jesus. Anyways, this really was a culturally shifting movie. The effects alone were enough to sell a ticket, and that's before everything that came with them. Within the first 5 minutes, you know you're in for something special, with the assault on the Rebel ship showcasing the groundbreaking visuals and introducing the most iconic villain ever in Darth Vader. The film then quickly moves from scene to scene until it presents the hero of our story, Luke Skywalker, a character that's relatable in so many ways to so many different people. He's just this young person stuck in a dead-end job on a dead-end planet. He has no true purpose and no means of moving forward. All he can do is hope and wonder what could be, but unlike so many of us, he's able to break free of this lifestyle when he finds the hidden message in R2-D2 that leads him on his adventure. After discovering this, he promptly finds Ben Kenobi, and along their journey, we get to meet the charismatic and charming Han Solo, as well as his lovable companion Chewbacca. With our main core set, the film is able to perfectly follow the 3-act structure by adding more and more obstacles along their path, from the stormtroopers attacking the Falcon on Tatooine, to the crew getting captured by the Death Star, and even having the team nearly die in a trash compactor. It continues growing towards the climax of Act 2, where Ben sacrifices himself to help save the galaxy. From there, we get Han abandoning the group and the rebel forces mounting a suicide mission towards the Death Star, until finally, when all hope seems lost, Han and Chewie come back to take out Darth Vader, and Luke is able to destroy the Death Star. This is a movie that had so much going for it, I don't think anything could have stood in its way and stopped it from becoming a monster success for decades to come. No matter how you feel about the subsequent sequels, this film defined a generation, and for some, a lifetime. It's undoubtedly the most important and influential summer blockbuster ever, and it stands the test of time. There's so much more that I could say about the greatness and influence of Star Wars, but right now I need to move on to one of my favorite movies of all time. Now, when I say between 1978 and 1992, there are a ton of amazing summer blockbusters that came out, I mean it. I'm talking about Alien, I'm talking about the Indiana Jones trilogy, I'm talking about E.T., and I am definitely talking about Terminator 2. That being said, I'm not actually talking about any of these. Each film I just listed is incredible, but I want to touch on the movies that really changed the genre and stick out in my mind. That's why Jurassic Park had to be on this list. As I stated, it's one of my favorite movies of all time, and I think it continued to pave the way for the summer blockbuster. Before the film even started production, it was in good hands, with both Steven Spielberg and James Cameron bidding against each other for the rights to the book. Now, when you have two of the most accomplished filmmakers of all time attached to a project, there's probably a reason, and that's because Jurassic Park is a genius story. Even though the film takes some heavy liberties from the book, the general concept of a group of people stuck on an island of raging dinosaurs is brilliant. The setup of the movie is great, not only with the velociraptor scene at the very start giving us a taste of what's to come, but also introducing each of our characters and adding clear motivation for the rest of the film. And while that may be the true start of the movie, I would argue that the film doesn't actually begin until John Williams' theme kicks on and shows one of the greatest technical achievements of all time in the Bronchiosaurus. At the time, the look of a CGI creature had never been better, and the Bronchiosaurus blew everyone away. The emotion displayed on Dr. Grant and Dr. Sattler's faces not only conveyed what they were feeling, but also echoed that of the audience, and from there the film really gets going. From the moment you get on the island, I think there's always a general sense of dread that's surrounding the characters, and it really sets in when Ellie and the rest of the group split up from each other. This, combined with the impending storm and Nedry's story arc, keep you on the edge of your seat for nearly the entire runtime. Another reason you might feel this way is because of the film's crowning achievement in the T-Rex. Now, this thing looked amazing back then and continues to look great to this day. The animatronic for it was used during the majority of its shots, and it alone has created some of the most memorable movie scenes in history. But I can't give out all this praise to an animatronic without shouting out one of the greatest to ever do it in Steven Spielberg, whose direction and camera work really helps you feel the characters' emotions and stand in their shoes during these scenes. And while Spielberg and Jurassic Park both deserve so much more praise, I just don't have enough time because I need to get to the next film on this list. I know I don't need to keep explaining myself, but I feel like I should. There's still a ton of summer blockbusters that came out between Jurassic Park and Deathly Hallows Part 2 that are amazing and culturally significant, but this is another film that just really sticks out to me. Admittedly, a lot of that is personal feelings. When I was growing up, my parents really loved these books and the movies that came out alongside them. I can remember multiple times being on vacation and going to see the newest film in theaters, and when the final book came out, my mom bought it and actually read it to us on our long road trip home. So outside of Star Wars, Harry Potter probably is the biggest thing that sparked my love for film, which makes it super important to me. And this final film closed off a chapter of my life that I had never lived a day without. And there would be no reason for me to love this series if it wasn't great, but it really is. I'm not the biggest fan of all the movies, but even the ones I don't like as much have enough to keep me engaged. And that to me all starts with the performances. Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, and Emma Watson were phenomenal choices for each of the lead roles, and they were the glue that held this series together. Seeing all three kids grow up over a 10-year stretch and add more range in each subsequent film was something that hadn't really been done before, but was executed beautifully. And by the finale, they were some of the biggest names in Hollywood. The kids aren't even the end of it though. Helena Bonham Carter as Bellatrix and Ralph Fiennes as Voldemort Voldemort are brilliant in their roles and add a real edge to the series. Carter especially shines in Deathly Hallows Part 2, with the bank heist scene to start the film being easily her best acting throughout the whole series and a perfect start to kick off the finale. From that scene on, the tension and stakes continue to rise, with the main three trying to destroy all the Horcruxes so they can finally take down Voldemort. The scene of Harry sneaking back into Hogwarts and confronting Snape is so uplifting and gives a great sense of energy to the school and the audience. The preparations for the final battle are super badass and add great spectacle until we finally get to the siege, which is just incredible. The scope of the battle is immense, with the camera never staying in one place for too long. It shows the audience what's needed to understand the severity of the situation, but only really dials in on our main characters. Whether it's Ron and Hermione entering the Chamber of Secrets, the scene in the Fiery Library, or the eventual death of Harry by Voldemort, director David Yates knows how to move the story quickly and continue to keep the audience on the edge of their seats. This culminates into the final showdown between Voldemort and Harry, interwoven beautifully with Ron and Hermione's duel with Nagini, until finally the last Horcrux is destroyed and Voldemort is defeated. This movie is what a peak summer blockbuster should be. It has exciting moments, amazing visuals, a satisfying ending, and it offers the perfect popcorn eating experience. All the films I've talked about today have these moments going for them, and that's no different with Alright, so I admit, I've kind of set a bullet train for failure here. I started off by talking about Jaws, which was the first summer blockbuster ever and a true classic. From there, I moved on to Star Wars, which was the movie that sparked one of the biggest brands of all time and ignited the love of film in so many different people. Then I talked about Jurassic Park, a movie known far and wide for its visual achievements and incredible storytelling. And finally, I got to Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, which is universally recognized as one of the greatest endings to a franchise in film history that spanned 10 years of everyone's lives. Then you have Bullet Train, a brand new film based off of a book I didn't know existed until right now. But guess what? This movie fucking rules. Obviously, it's not going to light the world on fire, becoming an instant classic like all the other films I talked about, but it is the perfect addition to a list of great summer blockbusters. It seriously checks all the boxes. The characters are interesting, well written, and well acted. It's action-packed, cinematic, stylish, and the perfect movie to lounge out and enjoy. And when I'm talking about summer blockbusters, that's all I want. Unfortunately, there's absolutely some missteps throughout. It's a little too long, the story can get way too convoluted, and at a point, it goes off the rails. Hey, what are you doing? Ow, what the fuck, man? Look, I know I said no more puns, but goddamn. Anyways, even with these missteps, I think the good in this movie outweighs the bad by a lot. Not all the characters are perfect, but there are some absolute standouts. The twins, played by Brian Tyree Henry and Aaron Taylor Johnson, are phenomenal and definitely the best part of the film. Their chemistry is so realistic, and the banter shared between themselves and the other characters throughout the movie is amazing. Every moment they're not on screen, you find yourself wishing they were, but that's okay because there are other characters there to pick up the slack. Brad Pitt's character, Ladybug, is at the center of the story, and he adds another level of charm and hilarity. The thought of an assassin who's become somewhat of a pacifist is ingenious, and Pitt takes the idea and runs with it. Bullet Train reminds me a lot of Brad Pitt's other film, Snatch, and he's able to pick up right where he left off, stepping back into that role. The mission for his character is pretty straightforward, but due to the constant backstabbing plot twist and team-ups, the movie is able to keep you on your toes. Each of the action sequences throughout, and specifically in the third act, are brilliantly shot and beautifully choreographed, and that's because the director, David Leitch, was able to take inspiration from so many blockbusters before it in order to give the audience a satisfying experience. Outside of the last 10 minutes, this movie completely captured me and made me forget about all life's problems for just a couple of hours, and that's the sign of a great film. Bullet Train won't be everyone's cup of tea, but it absolutely is mine, and there's no doubt it's the next great blockbuster in the summer movie genre.